MANILA for our first inaugural talk, which is ASPACE Talks with Oliver Segovia and ActionStack. Thank you for taking and for providing that opportunity for everyone to all of them are playing very nice. And let me hand you over to our host, Oliver Segovia, and then we'll start off. Cool?
Thanks, Micah. Thank you, ASPACE, for hosting this. Let's all give a big round of applause to Matt, Micah, Rat, Thanks, guys. And of course, Brian for hosting a coffee. Is Brian still around? Where's Brian? Okay, the coffee and the scotch. Okay. Thanks again, guys, for being here. And my marketing teacher always asked me to know the target audience. So before we start, I just want to get a sense of who's in the room and what you guys are doing. We're not going to ask you one by one, don't worry. I just want to get a sense, like, who you're planning for students. Students, undergrads, high school students, none. Who are still working at a full-time job and still thinking of making a switch? Okay, so around half. So it's half entrepreneurs, half of you. Who's unemployed? Trying to figure out what to do next. Okay. No, you have a story. For those who raise their hands who are still working at a full-time job, who works for a publicly listed Philippine company? Publicly listed Philippine company. Just two guys? BDO. And which company? Sorry. 24/7. 24/7 is publicly listed. Do you guys have stock options? I'm asking because it's going to be relevant later. Do you have stock options? No? Do you have stock options? Do you have stock options? The 24/7 guy. You want stock? Okay. Alright. I'll mention later why that question is relevant. And basically the background of this talk was, in the past several months, I've had a lot of friends in the startup community ask about how do we raise money. There's Kickstart, there's ASPACE, there's MANILA Angels, there's a lot of local groups, but it seems like there's a lot of technical stuff around it, right? Like jargon that we're not used to. And I posted something on the startup page group, thinking that it would just be a small group of like 20, 30 people who wanted to sit down for coffee and chat about valuation. But around 120 people said that, hey, we want to learn the basics of valuation. So what we'll do today is to do, exactly that. And before we jump into it, I just want to do a quick survey in terms of what your expectations are. And we're going to write them down here. Oh, shit. right now here is to make sure we cover everything towards the end. Okay, so who's raising money again? The startups, the next 12 months? Raise your hands. Raise your hands. Okay, sir, what do you want to know?
Valuation, the lead investor, the first,
Okay.
first investor.
So the first investor, how do we value that valuation?
Yes.
Right? Okay. Have you raised your hand? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. All right. Carlo.
Stock options
Stock options.
for my
Employees.
team. Yeah, for the employees.
Okay. Option pool.
Option pool.
Okay. All right. Who else? Who else is raising?
Convertible note.
Convertible note. Oh, that's really nice. Does everyone know what a convertible note is? No?
How's it different from convertible bond?
Even more advanced. Notes that flash. Okay. Yes, sir.
Oh my.
Second round. You guys have a first round already. Okay, so how to get to the second round? So what are the milestones are for the second round? Okay. All right. Sir. Are you raising your hand? Or are you calling someone? Were you talking about? Oh, okay.
How do we price your
Pricing. Okay. Pricing. Okay. Okay.
I don't know how to draft the Philippine purchase agreement from scratch.
Oh, let's do it last year. He's a lawyer guy, so he knows that. Okay. So we will now cover share purchase agreements here. And I won't be the first person here qualified to write that because I am not a lawyer. So, sir. Caps on what? Convertible notes, funding, convertible note caps. Okay. Alright.
What you might consider market for term sheets in the Philippines?
Okay.
For the main brands.
What's market for terms, right? Okay. What's standard practice for the suite? Okay, anything else? That's it? Okay. Alright. So we'll try to cover all these things here. Okay. Just to set expectations, we'll talk about what a convertible note is, what it does, but we won't get so much into the detail of the math around it. For the simple reason that I think a lot of people in this room are entrepreneurs, right? For those who raised your hands a while ago, you guys are raising for the first time. Is that fair? Who's seen term sheets before? Who has seen a term sheet? A term sheet given to you. Not a template, like a term sheet given to you that's not in the deal. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it's still a fairly basic audience, okay? There's only 3 people who see term sheets here. So, we'll get into the thick of things. Just a quick background about myself. I grew up here, studied here, was lucky enough to find a job at OFW for 4 years while I was working in Singapore in the P&G, marketing different consumer products. At one point in my life, sold feminine care napkins, but that's a completely different story altogether. And was lucky as well to get a scholarship to MBA in the States. And worked afterwards on the book, which is eventually published by the Harvard Business Review. I still blog for HBR every now and then. And 3 years ago, started a startup called ABBA, which eventually became, I think, one of the first 2 or 3 funded startups of Kickstart Ventures, which is the venture incubation arm of Globe Telecom. which is the group of MANILA and ActionStack, and co-founders of Rapper, some of the private angel investors. And just a quick background why I think all this stuff is super important, and why I feel super passionate in doing this is after being back for a couple of years now, come to the realization not a lot of people will agree with me. It's basically we live in a system, I feel, that's designed to stop you from getting rich, especially here in the Philippines. And I don't just mean rich in the financial sense of the word. I mean rich in terms of the ability to make impact at scale as well in this country. And we see it in our culture. We see it in school. We see it in the way business is run here. And in the local Philippine culture, being called ambisyoso is a pejorative. Who's been called that? Ambisyoso. It's almost like wrong to try to do something pretty big. In terms of the Catholic religion, we're also being educated to think that suffering is going to school, and suffering is divine. And even in school, when I consider myself a doer, even though I took business as an undergrad major, when I first started a company here, I felt like I was completely unprepared. Venture capital math, how to work with investors, how to value the company wasn't an emphasis in school. The most that we get in finance would be accounting, how to run NPV. It's the sort of finance that is taught to you, assuming that you're going to work in a big corporation. Not entrepreneurial finance, starting from scratch and getting that to scale. I think even the way business is run here isn't exactly in line with sharing the gains with people. So I asked a stock option question a while ago because in the past 4 or 5 years, the Philippine Stock Exchange is tripled in value. Tripled in value? Yeah, from 2010, I think in 2010 the index was at what? 2,000? 2,500, now it's what? At 6, 5?
No,
7, right? Mid 7, okay, they've corrected for a while. But I can bet you that the share of managers that have stock options in those companies have very I see a lot of nods in the room. And that's also one of the reasons why there was an article I think in the Atlantic magazine last year saying that something like 70% of GDP gains in the country have accrued to something like top 5% or top 2% of the population. And you realize that eventually that in a way that the system is really stacked because we're not getting the awareness of how equity works. Right? We're not getting the awareness, we're not getting the education on how to create value in the company and use that as the primary driver of wealth creation. Another myth that we're faced here with, and I think it's important to already start today in terms of learning all this technical stuff, is that the traditional myth that we're used to in terms of entrepreneurial success is the rags to riches entrepreneur. Right? The NBCs and the John Waltonways who started from scratch, labored slowly, surely, and built a big company. But the guys like Bill Gates and then Mark Zuckerberg in the valley, these guys didn't start poor. And Zuck had like a private software programmer coming to his house that his parents were paying for 7 years, teaching him how to code, one-on-one, every day, 3 hours after school. Bill Gates was studying in a charter school that had the only mainframe computer at the time, and hence was able to access the programming capabilities. So in a way, we're a bit far behind because, yeah, there's great program talent here, but in terms of the ability to execute in terms of the existing skills that we have, I think we're still way more to do. And that's why I think the next big step is critical mass of guys like you who are hungry, ambitious, and empowered with the right tools in how to get things done. And that's what I was hoping to cover today. There's a lot of this online. That's a great thing that we have today. A lot of what we've done is available online. My role here is to facilitate discussion. So anytime anyone has a question, feel free to interrupt. It's a pretty big group, so if you feel like there's one part of it that's confusing, I try to lay out the slides in a simple way as I could. If there's something confusing, please feel free to stop. And what we'll cover is basically three things. We'll cover the language, what jargon means, make it part of your vocabulary. We'll cover the math. I'm sure some of you guys won't like this, but I think the value of this is getting into the numbers and learning how the rules of thumb work. And then at the end, around 8:30, so we have around 15 minutes. At around 8:30, I invited two entrepreneurs who had experience raising funding for the first time. Dustin from Zap and Val from P2.
She's here.
Okay. We'll get them up here on stage, ask them questions on their experience. It's like evaluating their company, investors, that push them experience was. Cool. So just in terms of managing expectations, if you have limited time, what we won't cover is the dynamics of negotiating a deal. Right? I think it's a completely different discussion altogether. We won't get into the financial instruments. Some guys mentioned convertible notes, and we'll cover the basics of that. But there are other instruments as well, preferred stock. That's different from common stock. We won't get into the middle of that today, so we can introductory talk. We won't obviously get into financial modeling, use Excel to budget and see what the cash flows are. We'll cover, but looking at some of the slides, we'll cover some of the term sheet basics, but we won't be covering the whole depth of what the term sheet looks like. That's it's a different discussion as well. So the assumptions here is this is relevant for guys or girls who want to be a founder, or you have an idea, maybe a team and a product already. We're talking about valuation in the context of a high growth technology venture. Okay, so we won't be talking about price earnings, multiples of a Jolly franchise. We'll be talking about in terms of a technology startup. We'll be talking about milestones-based investing, which is very different from helping together 100 million pesos to build a small condominium project. Very different risk reward characteristics. And we're assuming, since somebody's asked about second round financing, right? So we're assuming that this is just the first round that we'll be going through. And that at the end, we'll be going through multiple. So I have a quick Excel sheet here later. We'll be happy to share that with the crowd as well. Any questions so far? Okay. So what is value? This is a whole economics class in itself. We look at the middle of theory and philosophy around value. But when you guys think about it, the first thing that comes to mind, for instance, is when you hear the word value, is you're buying a condo, for instance, and buy it now. In 10 years, if it's in a good location, that value appreciates. It could also be in the context of a company. This is the market cap of Google and Apple. For those of you not familiar, a market cap is basically the number of shares of a company outstanding times its share price. Right? So that's what basically the total value of company is. Okay. And when we read the news, you always hear about things like Uber being valued at more than $17 billion. The last valuation, WhatsApp being valued at $19 billion. I think the deal closed at 21, 22. Airbnb being valued at what? $12 billion. dollars. So what do those numbers mean? Okay. Does that mean that Uber has $17 billion in its bank account? Okay. Answer is no. Okay. What does that mean? Of course, we also talk about value in the sense of net worth, right? So when you see all of these lists, unfortunately, this purchase people in the world like the Philippines, and you see, for instance, does that mean he has $12 billion in cash in his bank account? No. What that basically means is that that's the net worth of NBC, mostly from his stock ownership in SM investments forum. So that's the context of value that we'll be talking about. And to make this relevant, I'm sure you guys have seen this movie, but we'll write this clip.
Using 24 million new shares of stock. You were told that's how much are your shares diluted? How much are his?
What was this example of how much share diluted?
Well,
What was Mr. Roscoe's example of share diluted?
well,
What was Sean Parker's ownership share diluted?
it was,
What was Peter Thiel's ownership share diluted?
it was,
And what was your ownership share diluted down to?
0.03%. You signed the papers. You said you're going to blame me because you're the business head of the company and you're going to have business deal with your own company. It's going to be like not a part of Facebook. My name on the max page. No, check it. Because I'm early the account. Wait around. Sorry, my brothers and cleaners. All my money, my fucking flip flops. You pretentious douchebags. Never signing those papers. You get the signature. So this is about beginning to speak. No, you didn't even tell me that story about the chicken. I'm sorry. I think you guys all seriously. And all that was involved. So that I did it as a co-founder of Facebook, which I am. But I'm aware of an asshole. Because I'm not coming back 3%. I'm coming back from everything. It's okay. Hang on. Vision $90,000 out of cash. If you're running account for I like sending execution. Makes most of the time.
Okay. My goal here is that by the end of the next hour is to be able to help you understand how exactly that happened. It's a fictionalized account. You all know that, right? A lot of stuff in the movie was exaggerated. But the fact that it wasn't exaggerated was that significantly. And the way we're going to do this next 30 minutes is talk about the hypothetical situation of a founder raising for the first round of funding. Okay, and she's facing the same valuation conundrum that a lot of you here face. And in the context of a startup, let's forget about in the meantime. fancy ways of thinking about value. But in the startup world, value has a very, very specific meaning. And the main use of it primarily is to figure out how much of your company you give up in exchange for a new investor coming in to the company. Okay, that's the most important use of pegging your valuation for your first round. Okay, as the company scales, there's going to be different challenges as well. How do you raise additional rounds of funding? How do we incorporate option pools? But first round, that's exactly the problem that we're facing. So, what's the situation? This hypothetical startup, okay, we just in, she's a first-time founder. Okay. She has a non-business degree. She's accounting or finance. She has a co-founder. Okay. And they basically agreed to put up 100,000 pesos, okay, of business pesos of capital. Okay. Just Dean's putting in 80,000, Alex is putting in 20,000. Okay. It's basically a mobile app which turns any cat photo into a grumpy cat photo. Okay. Pretty good traction because Alex was a bit of a pro. They were able to build a prototype. They were able to get a commercial deal with a local fashion brand, which allows them to print the grumpy cat photos into the T-shirts and sell them over the app as well. And now they've raised, not raised, but they're thinking of raising around funding. So the question is, how much does she need to raise? And based on that, how much value should she offer to prospective investors? Okay. The first concept is this whole idea of milestones. Okay. I think the first error that people get into is making a budget that's good for like 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Okay. That's not going to apply with sophisticated angel investors or any of the VC funds. Okay? What they're going to be looking for is how you're defining your milestones. And that's going to be very, very different for each startup. So in this context, what's a good milestone for just me and Alex? 1 million in revenue, dollars, pesos? Pesos? Everyone agree with that? Good milestone? Okay. What are the other milestones? Number of downloads? Okay, number of downloads for the app. Okay. In this case, 1 M. Okay, downloads. Anything else? Okay, similar to downloads. So, right. Ads in terms of
advertisements for the app.
okay. Ads. Okay. Anything else? Partnerships, commercial deals, right? In terms of the X deals. Okay, go to the store, or the fashion brand, on the app, or I guess additional exposure. Okay, anything else? Or a team. Okay, good milestone. So maybe in this case, they need to hire like a bigger dev team and a bigger sales team. Okay. Do you have to be profitable? No, also be profitable, right? But
Validation of assumptions.
okay, like what?
For example, if you post a Facebook ad, therefore we get X number of downloads, which equates to X number of revenue.
Okay, so your customer funnel.
Yes.
Okay, customer acquisition costs versus what your lifetime value is, or your acquisition cost positive. Okay. Anything else? A number of merchandise. Okay. Okay, so the point here is making sure that those goals must be directly linked to the drivers of value. Right? And what the investor will be looking for is, can this product become profitable at some point, right? Or will it be big enough that you can create a return out of this? If you're talking to an investor, you're only looking at like 2 things. Will they get a big exit from investing here and hence have a return on capital? Or will it be profitable to the extent that dividends might be declared later on, they will not improve your capital. So whatever milestones you guys choose must be directly linked to those drivers of value. What could be milestones that are not necessarily linked to value? Or what we call vanity metrics. Vanity metrics. Brand. What about brand? Okay. So it's not enough to say we got a good brand, right? With these customers. And ideally, when we're talking about milestones, you want to be quantified within a certain period of time, right? So for them, maybe 1 million in what? 6 months, 1 year, 6 months, okay, that sounds reasonable. Okay. Downloads, how many downloads? 1 million in 6 months?
10 pesos per download, so 100,000 downloads.
100,000 downloads, okay. Does that sound reasonable in the group here? Or smoking pot? Okay.
6 months.
Okay. So those seem reasonable, right? 1 million pesos revenue in 6 months, 100,000 downloads, and to be able to achieve that, maybe we'll need whatever, 10 commercial partnerships, we need to hire 5 people, we need to invest 500K in marketing, and put up downloads, get 8 more, we have a team, do this. We have a partnership with the fashion brand we're able to allow print t-shirts. Okay. That's what you're saying. Once you quantify that, you want to look at how much you need to be able to do that. Okay. So that's where the budgeting process comes in. A lot of people will call this check size, investment amount, that's bite size. For the deal size, different banks call it different ways. But what they want to see is that it's not too little, that you're abundant fail. And that depends again per industry. E-commerce is very high, mobile app, it's cheaper to build enterprise software, but of course big sales more. But it's not too much too. Okay? That you're raising too much to hire an expensive CPO or an expensive head of sales. It's reasonably enough to hit the next set of milestones. That's it. And that's going to be an evolving number, right? Because you're going to talk with investors, you're going to want to see what your assumptions are. You're going to want to look into how you're pricing your acquisition costs, how you're budgeting for salaries, and you're going to go back and forth and see what the right number is. And I think there's value in that as well, because somebody could just say that, okay, this number could be too high or too low. So it's great to also put that in front of an investor. Okay. All right. So just me and Alex decide that we need around 2 million pesos. Okay. For the next 6 months to get these numbers. 1 million revenues, 100,000 dollars. They go to an event in ASPACE, we meet different investors, and they start seeing some jargon. Put in 2M on the 8M3. or I'll invest 2M for 20%, or I'm looking for 1/5 of the company after the round for round 2. It's worth 8M pre-money, and I want to own 1/5 after the close. What does that mean? Well, it basically means the same thing, right? Basically means that the new investors will put in 2 million pesos at an 8M pre-money valuation. Okay? So what's the pre-money? This is basically the value of the company before the investment. It's the value of the company created so far. Some people will call this your sweat equity. Okay? For all the effort that Justine and Alex have given so far in creating the app, coming together, creating the idea, having the first commercial meeting with the brand, getting the first 1M in revenue, the investors basically saying all of that work is worth 8 million pesos. Okay. What's the post money? The post money is basically the value of the company right after the investment. Okay. And the way that math works is the way for people who and the equation is very, very simple. This is something that you should totally memorize. Know in the back of your head, be able to run the numbers mentally, right? Talk to the investor. Like your pre-money plus the investment is equal to your post-money. Okay? So in this case, how much is the post-money? 2 million buy size, 8M free. How much? 10. 10M. Okay? And if you know 2, you'll be able to derive the third, right? Okay. What if the investor says, I want to put in at the 10M post money at 2 million pesos. I want to put in 2 million pesos at 10M post money. What does that imply? The pre-money is 8. 10 minus 2. Simple. Sir, you have a question?
How does the free money compute?
The free money is not computed.
It's an assumed value.
Yeah, it's a negotiated value. Right? There's many ways we can rationalize how free money is computed. Right? If you look at comparable companies or companies in different industries, and we adjust. But at the end of the day, it's a practical number. Okay? That's negotiated. Kung nasa wapa ang reserve, mataas yung pre-money mo.
So there will be negotiation between the AC, the standard, and the founder.
Yeah.
They will be have that.
Right. And the key part here is learning how to play and justify that negotiation with your milestones that we're doing this, right? So that we're not putting it out in thin air. Well, I'm just going around 500,000 pesos salary for me, yes, I want to spend $1 million pesos. It's not really what drives intelligent investors will see that. Okay. Later on, we'll give a quick preview of, in addition to the pre-money, we also have to talk about what percent of the company we're giving out. There's different percent ownership is basically the percent of the company's outstanding stock after the financing round that the new investor will get. In this case, at 8M pre, with a 2M investment, with a 10M post, how much are they giving up? How much? 20? Why not 25? Why is it 25? It's 2 over 8. Why is it 2 over there? Why is it 2 over there? That's the first mistake that people make, right? Basing ownership share the pre-money valuation, which is wrong. It's based on the post-money valuation. Right? Because that's the value only after cash as it put in. Okay? Why does it not increase by 3? Well, because theoretically, if you're only putting in cash, cash is cash, right? Just because you're putting in 2M, even if it's like the most hot PC, doesn't mean that the value will increase by 3. Right? Okay? So the percent ownership is, in this case, 20%. Okay? So let's write that down. 8, 3, investment, 10. This is 20% plus it's 2 over 10. Right? Everybody on the same page? Okay? And the good thing about that is, if you just know 2 numbers, you can know the third, right? You can totally calculate 20% ownership by just flipping over the formulas. So if I say instead of 20%, what if it's 10%? And the 2F investment, what does that imply for the post-money valuation? 2F at 10%, what's the post-money? No, it's not wrong. 20. How do we get 20? 2M divided by 10%, which is basically 2 times 10. 20. Okay. Alright, so these are the numbers that you guys have to know by heart. Right? You can't be in front of an investor, negotiate valuation, and then have to go through your calculations. And you do it. Okay. And to be perfectly honest, some might try to take advantage of that. Okay. I was in negotiation with a prominent angel investor. We were already making something like 7-digit peso revenues at that point already. Who wanted 50% of the profit. Right? That's this. Right? And if that would happen to someone like me who has had experience, this and that could happen to a lot more experienced people as well, right? So these are the numbers that you know. So let's do a quick exercise. How much percent do we got? We'll go to that in a bit. Okay, let's try some examples here. Okay, somebody tells you I'll invest 12K at the 20K pre. What's the post money? 32? Are you right about that? Okay. What percent is the investor owe? What's the math? 12 over 32. Okay, that's what? Equal to around 28. 28%? 30%? So 27? 27.5. 37.5%. Yes. Everybody, all got that number? Right? Another one. Output and 1.5 M for 30%. What's the post money? What's the post money? Everyone agree 4.5? What's the math?
10% is happening.
1.5 divided by 30%, which is around 5. Okay. What's the pre-money valuation? 3.5. 5 minus 1.5.
Could you put down that formula right now?
Sure. So in this particular example, it's 1.5, which is the investment, divided by 30%. Why? Kasi pagkatapos ng investment, dapat 30% yung ownership niya. Yung 1.5 is worth 30% of the post money. Okay? So if you do the math, 1.5 divided by 0.3 was 5 M. And if you reverse it, if you multiply 30% by 5, you'll get 1.5. So the mental arithmetic that you have to be fast at is dividing percentages. Right? It's basically a quick trick here. And I have some tricks for that. And this, so is this pre or post? Post. And to get the pre, what do we do? Right? 5 minus 1.5 equals 3.5. That's the pre. Cool? Look at this. I'll invest 40% at the 4M post. What's the investment amount? 1.6. Right? Why? 4M times 40%. Everyone agree? Okay. What's the pre money? 4 minus 1.6. Everyone in agreement? Okay. Any confusion so far? Basic enough? Okay.
Some people might find it easier to remember if you write it down to proportion. Like the grade 5 one, like 1.5 over x equals 30% over 100%.
Oh. Anyone need that? Okay. Okay, let's move to a more complicated example. Okay. It's a quick test. Investor says I'll invest 5M or 20%. Pero I want you to invest 1M for your 80%. I want them still to be okay. Pero what is wrong? Right? So I still want you to what's the most money in this case?
25.
Okay. There's different ways to interpret this. The way I interpret this is 5M divided by 20%. Okay. Kasi aiming post, that's the last, that's the post. What's 5M divided by 20%? 25. 25M, right? That's right. 5M divided by 20% equal to 25 M. Okay. That's the post. What pre-money does that imply? 20. Right? 20. Okay. But for your hint, it's only an investment you put in 1M. Right? So, kung pointing na to, theoretically, example 1. Right? And 1, in addition to your sweat equity, you put in some money as well, right? So the 1 is included here. So which implies a pre-money of what? 19. So he's valuing your work at 19. Okay. Okay, so useful shortcuts since we established in a quick way to do that. Simply divide the investment amount by the percent ownership, and that's what your post money is. Okay. So if you're being offered 5M pesos for 10%, then that implies 5M times 10, right? 50 M post money. If you notice, these are just reciprocals of each other, right? Reciprocal of 20%. 20% is 1 over 5. Reciprocal of that is 5. Multiplied by 5x. If somebody asks for 60% of the first round, you tell them that. Okay. Alright. Okay, so that's the basic math. We cool with that before we get into the next part. Okay. Alright. In your first round of funding, the investor will give you cash, right? What does he get in return? It's a deal, right? You offer something, you get something, you have to give something. What does he get? Shares. Alright? Whose shares? How many shares does he just need? Kasi instead of 80,000. Does this tranche of shares transfer to the new investor? Who says yes? Yes? Yes. Who says no? No? Well, the quick answer is no. Because the company will be issuing new shares to that investor. Okay? So Justine or Alex will not be selling the shares. Okay? It's new shares. So we have to find out how many new shares the company needs to issue. Right? Here, we also have to figure that out. Okay? For that is your shares outstanding post money is the total number of shares is equal to your shares outstanding pre-money divided by 1 minus your percent ownership of the new investor. Alright, so here. In this case, let's say their par value is 1 pesos per share. Right? They invested already 80,000 or 1,000 pesos at 1 peso per share. They have how many shares? 100,000 shares, right? Okay, 100,000 shares. So the question is, how much should the company issue so that the new investor gets 20% of the total number of shares after the investment? So the existing shares is 100,000. Okay, how much should they issue? New investor gets 20%. Yeah? What does that imply to the founders? How much do you get out of the founders? 80%. Right? 100%, 130%, 80% to the founders. Okay. The 80% is this, 100 shares. Yeah? Right? So what's the logic? What number should we get such that this 100,000 is 80%? That number. 20,000. How did you get that number? Let's please on So ito 80%, right? So yung total na is what's 100,000 divided by 80%? Everyone got the error? Easy error to make. Totally fine. That's why if you're not sure, work it out. Okay. So in this case, shares outstanding pre-money was 80,000 divided by 1 minus 20%. So 80,000 divided by, 100,000 divided by 80%. What was the answer? 125,000 shares. Okay. So you can't make that mistake when you're negotiating with investors now, right? So you cannot make that mistake. So the total shares outstanding after must be 125,000. So the new investor gets how much? 25,000 shares. shares. Okay? And that's that. The number of new shares that will go to the first round investor is simply your shares outstanding post money, which is this, the 25, minus your shares outstanding pre-money, which is 100. So 25,000 shares. Cool? Questions? Questions so far? You guys have so far. Okay. Alright. The next question is yes, sir.
The price per share is 1 peso, right?
Yes, here.
And the total post money is 100,000. So why is the shares outstanding post money 100,000?
Shares.
Because the price of the shares are taken in money increase. We create wealth. Okay.
I think you have to explain the difference between par value and the sell price of shares.
We'll get to that. Everyone knows the concept of par value. Who's incorporated a company here? Raise your hand. 20%. Right? When you incorporate, you have to put what your par value is, right? Which is usually what your paid capital is, by the number of shares. When Justine and Alex incorporated, we put in 100,000 pesos at 1 peso per share, so they have 100,000 shares, right? But since they got how much? 2 million pesos. Okay? They got 2 million pesos from a new investor. Okay? If that new investor put in at the same par value, how many shares? For $1 per share in 2 million, how many shares will you give the new investor? 2 million shares, right? 2 million shares for the new investor, 100,000 shares for the founders. I will. Who's going to say yes to that deal? Right? Who's going to say yes? No. Look at that. Because by doing this, by milestones, right? By having the app, by having the commercial deal, by having 1 million in revenue, by having the 100,000 downloads, you actually created wealth for yourself. On paper, right? It's not cash, you can spend it on notes or buy a new car, but that's value. Okay. So what's the new price per share? By how much will that increase? Okay. Goes to this, right? So which is basically what the investment was in this case 2M, right? Divided by the new number of shares. So can someone do that? 2M divided by 25,000 shares. How much? 80? How much 80? How many? 80 pesos. 80 pesos per share. From how much, Karina? 1. Ano nangyari yun? How did that happen? How did that happen?
So these are all important calculations. This is important for the new venture to really figure out what their worth. And that usually you do by looking at multiples, by looking at the industry, or if you don't have comparables, by looking at developing a model. I think that's really very more critical area of valuation when it comes to technology startups.
Right. That's a totally perfect point, right? Yeah, we look at industry comparables as well, and whatever the apps are being priced at, right? The big challenge we have here in the Philippines is there's not much comparables to base your valuation on. And I think this is something that as Filipinos, we're not used to, right? Because always been brought up thinking that if you want shares in a company, you have to pay in a part, right? To get the shares. It's not natural for us to think that there's actually value in the existing work that we created, right? Which is what's happening here. 1 pesos, I mean, 80 pesos, right? And that's what basically served.
But you still have to come up with a concept of what the hell your technology or company is worth.
Absolutely. In this
You have
case,
to go to comparables or to your model if you don't find that, or both.
yeah, absolutely. That's exactly right. In this case, we were assuming that it's an app that does a couple of things that has revenue and downloads already, right? And at the end of the day, we can look at as many costs as we can, but this value is going to be the result of negotiation. As simple as that. And it's going to be a game of how do you improve that exact value. Okay? The other way to find this is your post-money valuation divided by your shares outstanding post-money. Okay? So, in this case, what was our shares outstanding? What was our post-money valuation? Anyone remember? 10, right? And what's the shares outstanding? 125. So what's 10M divided by 125? 80. It's the same. 10M divided by 125K, it's going to be 80 as well. The common error is dividing the shares outstanding for post by the pre-money valuation. For sure, value. And the way to check that is to basically use the 2 different ways of counting your price per share. Okay? And if you're the same, then your calculation is correct. Okay? It summarizes all of this in what investors call a cap table. And that's essentially a table that summarizes the ownership structure of the company and the investment rounds of the company. And this gets more and more important as time goes by. You guys want to see a sample? There's a lot of samples of this as well online. Okay, so this is what just Steven's and Alex's cap table looks like. So just go through this one by one. So they incorporated, right? We put in 100,000, 80-20 split between them. Okay. Percent review is basically 1% of the company goes to the new shareholders in that round. In this case, it's just 2 of them, so 100%. We have 100,000 new shares, and that's the price of 1 peso per share. Okay. And that's it. Well, this table is basically so that basically shows 80-20%. And then they get a seed round, which gets their pre-money at 8, investment of 2, proposed to 10. So if you guys calculate it, you get 20% in the measure. Okay. And then we just plug in the formula that we got data, measuring 1% ownership, and that gives us 25,000 new shares, not 20,000, at a price per share of 80, right? So exactly what you guys came up with, which is the investment divided by the number of new shares. Okay. And then, if you look at the cap table, so this is Justine, the 80, Alex 20, new investor 25. Okay. And if you recalculate the percent ownership, okay, Justine got diluted down from 80 to 64. Right? Alex got diluted down from 20 to 16. Okay? So when people talk about dilution, that's what it means. Dilution is basically the reduction in the percent ownership of an investor or a founder in a company as succeeding rounds go on. Is that a bad thing? 80, I already have 80% of the company. Now I just have 64%. Shit, what happened? Is that a bad thing? Question.
Is that directly related to the valuation? I have a question about the split of the stock. What is it basically offset?
Okay, so the question here is, why is Alex and Justine 80.50? Okay, that is already gonna be a discussion between co-founders. Okay, and there's different ways to think about that. You know, one way could be, maybe in this case, Justine, it was her idea. You know, she built a business plan. She got the first commercial partnership, and she received the 10%. Okay. Maybe in this case too, Justine is getting a huge cut in her salary, right? So she should have more shares. Whereas Alex comes in, maybe at the same salary that he's getting in this job at Accenture. So some shares. Okay. And then there's the whole concept of vesting shares. You know, some investors will require that your shares vest. What that basically means is you're not getting it upfront, but you're getting it over time. The common current single value is 4 years, or 1 year to live. I'm not saying that.
Okay. 4 years. 4 years for you to get the value.
Yes. So going back, 80 to 64%. Yes, sir.
Again, the numbers. How did the pre-money jump from 0 to 8,000 after 8 million? Did 8 million?
An operating investor. An operating investor now but invest to him for 20% of the company. Okay. If you were the founders, you want this to be higher, right? Okay.
So that's always the result of the leadership.
Yes, okay. Okay. Is a high pre-money a good thing? Always a good thing? Yeah, you know, it's a good thing, but in what situation can it be a bad thing? Okay. Higher expectations, right? You have to be more aggressive. What happens if you don't meet those expectations in the next round? Okay, well, what does that mean? What does the big headache mean?
Because more or less the founders will have an idea if they overpriced their pre-money.
Okay, overpriced shares the pre-money, what's happening to the next round? Down round, right? Which means that the price of the next round would be lower than 8M. Right? Is 8M overpriced or underpriced? We don't know. We don't know. There's no way to find out until they start fundraising for the next round. Right? So a higher pre-money, while okay, also increases the chances of a down round later on. Right? Especially if it's a frothy market and valuations are super high. Okay. Wait, but going back, let's establish the dilution question. 80 to 64%. Bad thing or good thing? Depends on the worth. Okay. So how much is Justine's stock worth now? $64 times what? 80 pesos? 64% at 80 pesos? Yeah. Oh, I mean, 64% actual. That's basically correct. So the easier way is just multiply 64% by what? By the most money. Right? So it's actually given. Per share is already worth 6.4 million pesos. 6.4 million pesos. So we got that by either multiplying the pre-money, the post-money by share, or per number of shares by the price per share, 80 pesos. That's what it is. And then, later on, maybe a year or 6 months later, they get the milestone. So continuation of the story that's already. Okay? And they double the valuation of the company from 10 to 20. And another investor wants to come in at 5 million or 20% of the company. So that means the post. But number of shares, 1,000, price per share 60, okay, so it's a process. Yeah.
Let's submit a cap table. Is the incorporation value requirement?
Not always. Not always. So in this case, when they raise, if you guys have a question, like Carlos' question was, if you show your cap table, you have to show the incorporation. Well, not always, because in this case, the incorporation is already. But if you're incorporating with an investment for the first time, that's possible as well. Okay? So let's assume for whatever reason the market was hot, and a month after their Series A round, Justine and Alex got an acquisition offer for 30 million pesos. Okay. Let's say because they're doing so well and so fast, it's Toledo's company just listed. Okay, you gotta build their portfolio, all that. So they're buying for 30 million pesos cash. Alex and Justine's company, 30 million pesos. Okay. How much do the founders get from that deal? How much does Justine get of the 30 million? How much? How much you share in Justine? 51%. So how much does she get of the 30? 15 million. 15 million pesos. Okay. Good deal? Yeah. Right. So that in basic arithmetic is how wealth is created by building your startup. Yes, sir.
Normally, like technology, so we start with sometimes ask money from funding. How you do a fair valuation when it comes to professional fees or money from your mom or from your brother?
Did everyone have a question? What if you're raising from family and friends, right? Are you gonna feel bad if you price Papa's share at 8 pesos per share? Are you gonna feel bad?
Discount. That's efficient.
It's a fair question, right? I mean, we live in a society where family, is support that, it's support that, My honest answer is, I don't know. That depends on your family. Yeah, the principle is the same. It's not you who want to price Papa at 8 pesos. Okay, there will be an implication if you're also raising money from non-family at the same round. Right? Because if Paco gets 40 pesos and the new investor gets 8 pesos, what's the new investor going to get? What's going to get? He's going to take another 40 pesos and go. Diba? Shit, tayo, same. Right?
I think the answer as well there would be, depends on what round you are. Because if they're investing,
Yes.
they're incorporating at 1 peso, then that's what you price it out. But if you're already approaching your milestones, and you already have investors approaching you at 80 pesos, then that's what you need to value that. Otherwise, it's unfair to your investors.
I'm just wondering because most of us start our business. A common Filipino last month.
Yes.
Even if the technology of last month.
Yeah, that's just pretty low. If you after that, you just pay back. Right? Besides, you're going to be supporting Papa and Mama anyway, right? So, see, you know, there's no opinions about that.
You should tell them it's a bad idea to invest. Any family member, I'm only multiple friends. Any family member that suggests that they would like to invest in an early stage startup, we should say, which is what we did. If you're cool with burning your money, then invest. If you're not cool with totally burning your money, then don't invest. Like if you need this money back for your mortgage or for your rent or for your kid's school, don't invest. Early stage startups is super high risk, super crazy. If you're not willing to lose it, don't do it. And if they're cool with that, after you like put it out there, like this is high risk, crazy nonsense, and they're willing to take your money, or if they're still willing to give you the money, then take it. Which I did. I took it from some of my family members, but I had that conversation of like, I am literally going to stand on the end of the dock and throw money in the water. If they're totally okay with that, then take it. It's fine. But if you're looking for, if they think you're a smart guy and they're buying your brain, don't take their money. Because it'll cost, I think it'll cause problems down the line for you with the family. So it's like, it's good to clean up the beginning of saying it's early stage tech investing is the most high-risk thing you can possibly do, I think. Would you agree?
I couldn't agree more. Totally, 100%.
Mike, bring me a beer.
You price the other values in your first week or the 50%.
No, just so happened that that's the word of mouth came out. But it's a perfectly valid question. The dynamics change when the number of shares that the founders remain with is diluted to the extent that there's a possible change in control. Right? And that change in control totally depends on how the board is identified, right? So if the founders suddenly get like less than 10%, because they did so well with they are practically working for the other investors already. There's fancy ways to get around that. For example, Jack Ma and Mark Zuckerberg usually call a dual class share structure, where their shares get more votes, usually 10:1 for other shareholders. So even if their economic interest is much lower, their political interest, i.e. their influence over the board based on their votes, is disproportionate to the number of shares that they own. So, we'll end the math there. I want to get a panel for 20 minutes left. But basically, the next steps here and all of this online is, understanding financial modeling, how to budget, how to create cash flows, understanding financial instruments. Okay. The question of convertible notes, a convertible note is basically an instrument wherein you delay the conversion of the money into equity at a later date, usually at a discount, right? So if the convertible note is 5 million pesos and the discount is 20%, what you'll be converting on later is just 4.2 million worth. Sorry, what you'll be converting later is a discount to the price per share. So if the price per share is lower because it's discounted, the 5M converts to more shares for the investor. There's a big debate now whether the convertible should be cap or no cap. I tend to lean on the with cap because if you use with cap as practically the price for the convertible note. There are things like liquidation preferences.
Yeah, on the subject of convertible notes, do you think that that has a place in a high-risk environment?
In my experience here, in the Philippines, if you wanna get it, around fast, there are a few investors. Kickstart does convertible notes. Easy for them to issue as well. The implication in this country in particular is the way our tax laws are structured is that if the convertible accrues interest, meaning there's whatever X% being added to the principal that's then converted to equity later on. Apparently, the BIR considers that as income on the part of the convertible loan holder. So even if there's no actual interest, let's say there's just complicated like that. In my experience, if there's a convertible loan that happens, let's go straight down as the price.
So in my experience here in this country, multiple rounds, multiple ventures, it's a great thing to see all of them. I can never do it. Actually, yeah.
Gentlemen who have brain salad really great about the nature of control. That's a more advanced subject as well, which we'll get to the term sheet discussion. Basically, the term sheet irons out the economic political interests and aligns those interests. And there are certain provisions that allow you as an entrepreneur to keep more or less control depending on the negotiation. Again, the key is mastering the basics of the math, the basics of the valuation before getting into these next steps. So I'm gonna call the panel on board. Val, here, there. Dustin. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves? What your startup is, when you raised funding, and the experience of what it's like. You guys learned about valuation, and then we'll get to ask questions.
Hi, I'm Val.
I'm Al.
So I'm Val. I'm the CEO and founder of Vigo. It's the dating site. So our experience is totally different. And then I still get drowned hearing all the things that they Oliver mentioned. So my background was I was working for corporate for about 5 years. I'm guessing most of you still do as well. So when I entered Kickstart, I don't know anything. Like I didn't know most of the meaning of those words. I didn't even know the formulas. And then I remember during the very first time that I pitched after the launch garage workshop. So like minutes before the presentation, people were asking me how much was I raising, and I didn't know how much. I just finished the workshop about doing products and so on. And then, one of the mentors said, okay, put 250,000. So when I did my pitch, after the end of my pitch, they said I was asking for 250,000. And then people were starting to ask me, what was your valuation? I didn't know what my valuation was, so I just, stood there and thinking about what my valuation is. And then I thought it was, it was the number in the SEC document about how much your company was worth. So I said, according to my SEC document, it's like 8 million pesos. And it wasn't. So, it was like very big mistake.
Just authorized capital.
I didn't know. I didn't know. And then, the first thing we did
in the Kickstart checkpoint. They taught me from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. about how to complete your evaluation. But I think it's kind of common because I did, my background is really IT and then product. I didn't know anything about it. And then all of a sudden we were asked to do we were asked to showcase in Startup Asia and then Echelon. And then all of our mentors for Kickstart were kind of worried about me because they didn't know most of the things that investors were asking. So what I did, I actually did a table, so it was like a cheat sheet. I computed all the different, okay, if somebody asked me, how much are you raising for what valuation for 1%, so I would, the table, just in case, if somebody asks me, I can just check my cheat sheet, and I already know the answer, because I really can't compute on this one. Because I just learned everything the week before, and I can't, it's not in my blood, so I don't know it. So that's just how I did it. So it seemed like I know everything, but I really didn't know what I was saying. I think the mentors of Kickstart were really explaining everything. Even when I came back from Segovia, we did it again, and then I was getting emails about how did you get your pre-money valuation? And that's another thing, I don't know how I got it. I went upstairs, I asked that, and somebody's asking me how I got my pre-money valuation. How do I compute that? And then, so we came up with a formula that we found another dating startup was kind of the same with my startup. Like we had the same traction, same number of months doing, the startup. So we went from there, and then we deducted all the things that I should have. So I didn't have a CTO then, I didn't have an app, so we deducted.
The valuation of the home power spotting.
Yeah, it was spotting. And from there, again, so, I emailed that, and then all of a sudden, they were also asking me about, why are you asking this much money? And then I had to go back again and then, do the whole computation, the whole table, and then send it again. And from there, so thank God we were able to raise. we were able to raise by August. We were able to convince some of the investors, even though every time they ask me, I always say, can I come back to you? And we just email. And then from there, it was also hard because the moment we kind of narrowed down the term sheet, because before the term sheet, we had oral, we had the verbal agreements, emails, and then they were agreeing to this percentage, this money valuation, this how much we were asking for them. And then the term sheet came out. All of them, emailed me again, I don't agree with this, I don't agree with this, can you change this, can you change that? From that time, we were in an equity round, and then some of them wanted to do convertible note, and then some of them didn't want to do a convertible note, and then nobody wanted to leave because we had a lead investor. And it's so frustrating because I thought for the past, so we started that February. And then by July, people were kind of, changing their minds back and forth. And because I'm usually very nice when talking to them, but I'm usually like this. But end of July was really frustrated. And then I texted everyone, you're wasting my time. You say yes or no now, so I know what to do. And from there, they all texted that week, okay, we're going to sign the term sheet. And then I signed, and then we were able to, get the cash. And, like a pop quiz, because I really don't know how to do it up to now. I just have, note that it all the formulas. Thank you.
I'm asking for you now. I'm totally over.
So,
This is the question to Valor Oliver. We talk about valuation, but you know, would you accept less money, from certain investors? Why? Like, how much would you value the intangibles of your investors?
Okay, so for us, I kind of made a rule that $10,000 below, I wouldn't take. I don't know, it was just, for me, it kind of felt like a waste of time and then to get diluted eventually, so I won't take it. But I don't know, I think we were kind of lucky getting investors because they already agreed that they will give this amount of money. Same with other investors, but they also gave tech support. They gave us, some of the licenses to use their systems. So I'm not sure. It didn't really come into the computation.
I think the big lesson from Val's experience is just being very clear on what you want in life and being very aggressive with that, with investors. Because I remember back in PNG, we were in Singapore and it was a multinational company, so there's a lot of people from different cultures from China, India, the States, the UK, Europe, and the reputation of us Filipinos in Singapore is we tend to be, more meek and more shy compared to let's say Indian professionals or Indian entrepreneurs. And in this game, especially if you're talking to international VCs, like the Japanese have been going to the Philippines more often lately. There's a lot of regional funds based out of Singapore who also invest in Indonesia and Malaysia. We are being benchmarked not against other Filipino entrepreneurs, but against other Asian entrepreneurs in the region. And so I think it's one of those instances wherein we have reason to err on the side of aggression and being very, proactive versus just being laid back and sitting on the sidelines.
I think just to answer your question, 30% if a strategic investor is coming on board, they're promising you this and that, this will help you grow your business. I definitely get a signed document together with the investment so that they'll be committed to that, because without that, after the investment, they can always say, oh, I didn't mean that, then they can always not do it anyway. So I'd rather get it upfront to be sure. If they're not going to do that, I wouldn't probably discount the valuation of that investment.
What would you love to see in a signed document like that?
It depends on who the strategic is. Like if they're promising, I'll give you my network, logistics network, or I'll promise you X number of sales through my how many salespeople. So I probably want to get on paper like what specific resources are you committing, like number of hours or number of distribution centers. You get to get half of my trucks and stuff like that. Something concrete. So,
your experience.
My name is Dustin Cheng. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Zap. We are a loyalty and rewards company. So what we do is basically, if you're a Zap user, you visit one of our partner merchants, you get 5% to 20% cash back every time you pay for your food, for your purchase, or whatever. So bring on your phones, look for Zap Philippines, download our app. We have a lot of merchants here, and Atin, Newport, Rockwell, and all in all, we have 450 partner stores, so that's what we do. Talk about my experience in fundraising. Zap has been my first company where we've actually raised money. My other company before was a deal site called Deal Dozen, but that was completely self-funded and bootstrapped to start. So my first experience was with Zap. We started raising money probably around October last year when we were pitching at the Tech in Asia event in Jakarta. So we were one of the startups who presented there, and then we started talking to investors after that. The whole process maybe took us about 6 to 7 months to complete. In terms of valuation for us, personally, the way we computed it was we decided on how much money we needed moving forward for the next 1.5 years. So get that amount, and then decide what percent are you willing to give away, knowing that there will probably be future rounds again, right? So take into consideration the dilution from this round and the next round, and after that, you still want to retain control of your company. So that's how we arrive at our pre-money valuation. Doesn't mean the investor will agree to it. Of course, you have to justify why you think that that's a good pre-money valuation. That depends on your traction, on your projections, and what you want to become, how you will become that company worth that much. It's really a negotiation between you and the investor. But at the end of the day, to get the initial valuation, number to start at, that's how we did it. So we talked to, I think, about 40 different investors. The main lesson that we learned was referrals are gold. So get referrals every time you can. The stronger the referral, the better. It's not to say that cold emails or cold, like just approaching them in a meetup event like this, those work as well. Especially if you email without referral, make sure that try to connect with the investor up front. So don't just send a generic email. Look into his other investments, look into what he's done, look into what he's recently achieved, or a blog article he's written or something like that. And start with that, lead with that. They always like it when you're able to relate to one of their investments, maybe even congratulate them when you exit, just so that you can stand out from the rest. If you don't have a referral. Even if you do have a referral, always lead with something that will connect with the investor anyway. So we started raising money in November as a convertible note. So the reason why we started as a convertible note was because we were pretty cocky at the time. So we were almost sure that we would not have a down round in the future. And equity round versus a convertible note, you'd almost always be able to get a higher cap compared to a price equity round. So that's why we started with a convertible note. And then after negotiations, we ended up with an equity round because for us, it's always good to start high because everybody will negotiate. Like what Val said, we had exactly the same experience. We had investors commit verbally through email, but once we sent over the term sheet, they started renegotiating everything. So it's always try your best to get the best deal because know that until it's signed and the money is in the bank, everything can change. They will most likely see that, okay, so this entrepreneur has agreed to this. I might try to get a bit more. And now that you're sort of emotionally committed because the investor has said yes, right? So you're sort of dropping out your other contacts and leads, sort of focusing on this one. And then all of a sudden, he changes his mind, says, I want a lower valuation. You're put in a tight spot because you sort of left all the others already, right? So it's never sure until the money is in the bank and everything's signed and done.
Weren't you afraid of your idea being stolen in the middle of the negotiation? Took 7 months, right?
Yeah, by the investors, not really. We have a few investors where they told us upfront that they had other companies in the space. So they told us upfront they had conflict of interest. And knowing that, it's up to us if you still want to continue pitching to them or not. But in general, investors would not see their idea because if they did, then the investment community is pretty small. So it would not be good for them.
It's a very common question, and I think one way to think about it is if you're worried that someone can replicate your idea, it's probably not as good an idea as you think. Is that a fair point? Yeah.
For your first round, did you get angel investors or did you get professional VCs, professional investors?
Actually, for our first round was in 2012 when we joined Kickstart. So as an incubator, they gave us an investment. So that was our first round. Our round now is with Kickstart again investing, and we have a few angel investors and a few VCs on board. So it's a mix of different institutions. All in all, we raised $850,000 US.
All here, local?
No, split between the VC is from the States, and the angel investors are from here, and Kickstart Ventures.
And you own 51% still?
Not me personally, but we're 4 founders. So as a whole, we still own a very good majority of the company.
Any other questions?
I've heard it. What some to go by is about a third for the founders, a third for the employees, and a third for venture money. Once you're all set, is that
I think here in the Philippines, it's hard to get people to appreciate equity. Employees don't appreciate equity here as much as in Silicon Valley, for example.
So use that as a hiring score.
It's not as strong here, definitely. So this is from experience. I've tried to start a company with Oliver before. We had investors on board, we had everything on board. We just couldn't run the company ourselves because we had other businesses. So we were trying to hire a CEO and we're giving him or her a big chunk of equity. All they cared about was how much was my salary.
I remember that. Just to give you guys the actual metrics of that deal was, we were offering, we spoke with like a number of candidates in the retail scene because of the e-commerce startup. I think we offered a 30% cut on the salary, which is reasonable, but they get like 25% equity of the venture, vesting over 4 years for free. It's a pretty good deal, right? Not putting in money, you're getting 1/4 of the company over time. And
Plus
still
your salary.
plus your salary, we usually take a 30% cut. We had like what, 2 or 3 in the short list? Nobody took it. And these were like senior executives in big companies. And that, for me, was like a huge signal that if these are fairly educated executives already, and it's not as if their families are going to go hungry because they're still getting a very good salary benchmark what they're getting now, and they're still not seeing the value of the 25% vesting over time, then there's a huge miseducation in the market that needs to be corrected.
You should have gotten a startup, another startup, versus somebody from a big company that is more worried about salary.
Sadly, $100,000 was there. So we ended up not taking the money because we felt that if we couldn't get a person with that good a deal, then you'll be self-selected into the wrong people, right? You don't want to get someone who just doesn't understand. Question for you guys is, what were the tools or any websites that you guys use to learn all of this stuff that the folks in the audience can also check out?
Yeah, I actually don't. Yeah, most of the things that I know come from the people in Kickstart, and then yeah, I didn't use any websites because it was kind of harder to understand. So I just found somebody who knows about it and then, made them tell me everything they know about
it. So for me, definitely Google. Every time I heard the term I didn't know, investor product, liquidation preference, dilution, I went to Google and said, hold on, go to Google, search, not making the point, of course. So search on Google, read the first 3 pages, every single one. That's it.
Questions?
Question. As far as both of you, like, what's your, now that you've raised money and you have investors on board, so what's the, like, at the moment, the exit strategy? Are you looking for constant increase in revenue, or just looking for a buyout in the future?
Well, for us, it's actually my first time to raise funds, so we're going to prepare for another round of raising. From there, the goal is to really exit, but maybe like 3 to 4 years from now, when everything's kind of in place, to really achieve the goals that we wanted to achieve, like build the brand and really get as much users who really use the app. And then if we've gotten, a good amount of revenue, like be prepared to be bought.
I guess for me, it's all a matter of personal preference. So for us, the way we look at it is, it's always good to have an exit strategy, know who the potential buyers are here in the country and in the region, and know what you want to achieve in order to be attractive to them. But if your exit strategy is the plan, the one and only plan, then that's not a good business to run. Because you always have to create something that's valuable, create something that people want. And even if you don't think about the exit strategy at all, you create something that's valuable and exit will come.
So were you tempted to put in any guarantees at the beginning, just to get your funding?
Like what?
I mean, guarantees in terms of performance, the milestone, that you're gonna get this money on this particular milestone, then just to get the actual cash inside the bank, I mean, as part of negotiation. Was that like part of the entire exchange?
A few of them tried to, but we didn't agree to it. So it's just a matter of negotiation.
Yeah, because I think a smart investor will know that in this world there are no guarantees, right? You can't promise that I'm going to only losers or else I will pay you back. If somebody asks you that, okay, get the, what do you say? Get the F out of that room.
Yeah, it's the same for me. We had investors who wanted us to achieve this, and then you will give us the cash. But we had good investors who really understood how a startup works. And it's not about, you can't really do that. Like at this point we'll have this much. It's not not well, you can try to, but like it's not going to be exact.
How often do you, and in what format do you report or meet with your investors?
Well, for us, we have coffee at 7:30 a.m. We meet with them. I text my investor more than my boyfriend. So I update him more.
Does he know that?
Yeah, especially when I was fundraising, because we have to be in constant communication with them unless they'll forget about us. So I really follow up every day. Minsan not every day kasi like so minsan 2 or 3 times a day. But they text you too. Some of the investors that we had didn't really communicate through email. So they'd ask questions and through SMS, and like my SMS are like 3-4 pages because they rather do it there. But it's really in person. Like after we've gotten the money, we didn't want to be, we didn't want a relationship like that they just gave us their money. Because I really wanted to, I wanted to prove to them that I'm a reliable person, you just see with with your money. So we try to, tell them what happened at least once a week. It's not really, there's no format. It's just like telling a story like your friends, because we're partners. It doesn't really have to be so formal.
I think for us, it's not as regular as that. Maybe like once a month. But it's informal as well, so they're not like huge institutional VCs, angel investors, Kickstart. They're very informal. We meet, we talk about the problems. I think one of the most important things is you accepted their money because hopefully they have something to bring. So tell them your problems. Maybe they have connections who can help you solve the problems, or they think of a way, or they can help you with this and that. So use those connections and definitely tell them, keep them updated on what's happening at least once a month.
For us, we send a one-pager every quarter. It is a format that originated from Hatch, one of our investors. And it's pretty straightforward. Like, metrics for the quarter, milestones achieved, and then for the next quarter, what are the key initiatives that we're working on. This question?
Sorry, have you experienced a bad investor?
Not yet.
Not yet. Red flags and all. Potentially. What was the question?
Have you ever had that?
Have we had experience with bad investors?
Amen.
I was just asking what the question was.
I think one good rule of thumb is if intuitively, before you take their money, if anything in the negotiations makes you feel uncomfortable, trust that intuition. Trust that if there's something in the way they behave. Like for me, one good example is there was this investor with a prominent local angel. He was claiming that one, he wanted like a huge discount to the valuation that we were asking for. Because number two, he says that if we have him on board, it's a sure exit for us. Because the big companies will buy from him. And I was like, what the fuck? No such thing as a sure exit. Nobody can guarantee you, a sure exit. And if you sense, those weird, pushy things like that, what do you do? Yes.
Hey, Val, I'm so sad that your backup was so low in terms of the dating side.
Yeah.
I wanted to know about raise the page. I wanted to know about how much percent of the free money do you compute it to be the technology or the database or the value, just gut feel to that.
Well, for us, when we computed free money, it was really, most of them really based it in technology, so it's really going to be 60% to 70% technology. And then we really, we kind of sold ourselves that, there are a lot of dating sites, but not, like you won't see like an all-girl group doing a dating site with a very specific type of personality. So it's really hard to replicate, so we also leveraged on that one. And then we also leveraged on the skills that we're going to get, what we're going to do, like, people kind of recognizing the brand from here to, to UK and everything. So yeah, let's take how we can do it.
So we're at 9:15, so maybe we have time for two more questions.
What if somebody's offering us to find an investor, and in exchange they want an equity or maybe a percentage of assumption of that? Is that a good idea?
A middleman.
No, the fucking self.
Well, yeah, we had people approach us offering the same service. We didn't want to deal with it because they don't really know anything about what we're doing, and then the second of all, they don't really embody what we're trying to do. So it's going to be missing most of the things that we want to convey. But basically, I think it's not a good idea.
You said it so lovely.
Maybe just a finder's fee, not fee.
Same thing. I'm sorry, I'm not on this panel. Do the thing.
I think we have to assume that. Yes, sir.
Simple question. I mean, was there anything you think you could have done better or gotten better advice on?
Yeah, maybe can I kind of rephrase the question, kind of change it?
Sure.
Maybe
that's what good politicians do.
Maybe what is the best advice that we kind of got while fundraising? So given my personality, I think the best advice that we got was to really be aggressive and really be honest. So when I was fundraising, I was really upfront about what your problems are, and I need the money now, and you have to sign this by this week. So yeah, I think that was when I was starting to fundraise, I was really, because I I have a really soft personality. So that is one of the, that is one of the best advice that people told me. And then when I was really upfront and really aggressive about what I want and when I want it, and then people started to respond, in the way that I wanted them to respond.
I think for us, since it was the first time we were fundraising, the biggest mistake was probably when we got some verbal commitment, we started to relax a bit. Never do that, because again, it's never sure that the money's in the bank. So even if you get the 5 different investors say yes, 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 don't stop following up with the rest. Just try to follow up with the ones who said yes and get them to sign a commitment, do the investment right away. But at the same time, just continue with the others, continue the conversation, because there's a good chance that the people who said yes won't actually follow through. Sometimes they drop off for whatever reason. So it's never a good idea to relax.
The signed document is not the same thing as money in the bank.
Right.
All right. So, one more question?
One more question.
Can we leave it to the gentleman on the side? Maybe offline the question. Sir.
You work with lawyers.
Yes, we did. We were with lawyers.
These are
Yes.
For us, when negotiating, no. Because I believe that if you had to work with lawyers, that means they didn't understand something, and that's not the way I work. So if I didn't understand something, I do research, I understand it myself. But afterwards, when you closing documents, yes.
All right, before we end, I just want to make use of this opportunity. We've got some really experienced guys in the room, Steve, David, is there anything else you guys wanted to, add? It's a great crowd, so. Anything to fundraising?
I just think you should do what you want to do, own what you want to own. Whatever people think you should do or should do, if you think you can do it, do it. There's a lot of rules on what you think you should do or what other people have done, and there's people that say fuck that and they do what they do. There's definitely room in the Philippines to do what you think can be done. Here to be amazing and be the person that did this, raised that, and built this, and created that. There's room. You don't need to follow stuff or things or whatever. There's a shit ton of room. These three are examples of you can just create stuff. You don't have to follow things. Here's what I think.
Well, basically, from what you heard tonight, you can learn that everything is negotiable. Not because somebody comes and says, you have to do it like this, there's so much percentage to do that. No, actually, it's up to you to do your own calculation, and when you're sitting there in front of the people, you negotiate. You don't like the deal, walk away. And if you really want to invest, they'll come back and agree or give you another offer. So the most important is everything's negotiable. There's nothing fixed in stone. And that's what you have to learn to talk to people. Don't be scared. The other important thing they both said is always follow up. Tell people, you have until next week. Otherwise, you're talking to somebody else. And that works. It's not theory. Because if you're interested, there's a lot of people that have money there, especially the VC guys. They don't invest it. Nothing's going to happen. They have to show they're doing something. Otherwise, they can't raise more money to keep on going. So, they're good to look at.
I believe David nailed it. Just remind me, be relentless. If you think it's the last email, you shouldn't email them again. The last text, you shouldn't text them again. Be relentless. I'm fucking relentless. And people tell me, you it's because most of you don't. And I get noticed because I'm relentless. be, you just said, like, to the fault that you don't think that you should do, follow up. I'll email some customer or some lead, sorry, not customer, lead, 15 times. Most people would stop at 2. I will follow you up constantly, until you tell me to fuck right off, or that here's why you can't buy, here's why you're about to buy. And I will say something. Being run is very valuable, especially in a place like this where it's like not culturally okay to be run. And it's a huge advantage.
Any other last plugs for Zap and guys?
Zap customer apparel. Sorry, anything else?
Yeah.
Other apps could be available in the App Store.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Okay, this week, check it
Alright, for those guys who want to learn, I'm thinking of organizing an advanced workshop where we get into the details of each. We'll probably cap that to maybe around 30, 40 people so we could go in depth into the specifics. If you guys are interested, I'll put up an Excel sheet here and you can just sign up with your name and email, and then we'll keep you posted on the date and venue. Thank you. Thank you, Brian, Memorial, for taking the great stuff to me. And thanks to the ASPACE guys, good beers and the venue.
That's it.